Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fans of Skytear. Welcome. My name is RG Commander, reporting here for duty. Tonight's game, we have the September clash between Chris and Ian. Chris playing under the tag of Cdubs, Ian playing under the tag of Pastor Ian here. So we have an exciting match for you tonight. As we mentioned, this is going to be round number 4 for the September clash. So the winner here guarantees that they will be moving into the top cuts of the clash. And so, before the game started, we did have the coin toss. Ian did win the coin toss and elected to go first. As we can see, Ian is bringing in a group that is all colors except for yellow. We have Yami, Nalaklan, Freyhill, Shalavi, Korhoff, and Astrida. Go ahead and get our overlay going here for us. Meanwhile, Cdubs has brought a yellow with a splash, a mostly yellow with some red for his team. Hogasai, Yami, Shafathi, Satheru, Ekut, and Akuti. We did see Freyhill was drafted first for Ian. And then we saw Yami, Hogasai, these two melee heroes, pretty core on the Ashen Pass. We have seen a lot of play from them. And then we saw the response there from Ian bringing in Astrida, as well as his own Yami. We need to see what Cdubs' final hero selections are. He will have to draft his third hero, as well as the reserve hero for this particular game. Looks like Nalaklan will be his reserve hero for Ian. And Chris's reserve hero appears to be Shafathi. All right, very good. So, as we are aware, the new rules are in effect today. Let's go ahead and adjust our camera, zoom in a little bit here so we can see the action a little bit better. There we go. Close enough. All right. So the new rules that I mentioned, what we have to look forward here are a couple things. Number one, illusions and pillars are now modified to have 1 hit point, 1 armor. This means that they can be destroyed by AoE attacks, and in general are a lot easier to remove from play. In addition, marks, the big one, the one that I'm actually excited the most about. We also do have some changes to the talent pillars. We'll talk about those as well. But the big one here is the mark play. Whoops, I apologize. 1 minute here. We're taking a look. Few comments. Apparently the stream, we did have some technical difficulties before the start of the game here. It looks like we are continuing to have those. I apologize for those. Yep, we have a few problems here on the capture here. It looks like. I'm going to go ahead and check the settings. There was an OBS update, and there were a few issues before the start here. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can adjust these real fast. Okay, let's see if this helps out any. If we adjust it to this. Okay. Again, my apologies, everyone. Thank you for waiting. We'll go ahead and see if this makes any difference for us on the stream here. The players are holding up for us in play while we try to sort this out. I'm going to give them the go-ahead, and then I'm going to monitor on the stream as well to see it. I need to see exactly how it works. Something happened whenever I set up the stream in order to broadcast our game last weekend from the Discord. For whatever reason, it did not then capture TTS for me anymore. And so before the game, Ian was demonstrating a whole bunch of possible triage fixes. We'll see if this is getting us any better here, now that we've had some time to let it update. Unfortunately, let's see if we up the bitrate. I can see that the bitrate is definitely higher than it normally is, which I'm assuming is probably my issues here. So I'm going to see if I can mess around with this a little bit to compensate that, and hopefully not set my computer on fire in the process. So we'll see if that does anything. And again, of course, I will be actively monitoring the chat here. It does look like we do have some improvement here, I think. So we're going to go ahead and run with this for now. But again, please do keep commenting. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the stream on a second laptop to make sure that everything's running all right. And we'll go from there. So apologies for those technical issues. Let's go ahead and see what happens. So the first turn, opening from Ian, fairly standard play with Astrida. She moved forward. She attacked a minion, spawned a minion from her worship abilities to give her a lead in the lane. Yami is going to respond by clearing out minions of her own, moving through the minions, moving over, attacking the minions, potentially moving, actually moving into the dome. Very nice. Kind of deciding where he wants to place Yami here in anticipation that Freyhill or the green Yami will come to contest. Going ahead and flip on the +3 there. So the skirmish action was used to damage the Astrida, dealing 3 damage to her there. Or, I'm sorry, that was not a skirmish, that was a worship action, excuse me. The worship action allowing Yami to move into the dome on the other side of Astrida there. All right, so as a result then, Ian is going to move his own Yami, again with another swiftness. He's going to move him through Cdubs minion, flip the minion there. We have another dead minion, and we're going to kill this minion. So important thing to note, and I have to talk very quickly, I do apologize for that, due to the fact that this game could be ending very quickly, as Ian's deck is in fact called One Lane Trample. And in this deck, there are in fact 3 trample cards, and with the Flux turn 1, Ian may intend to just kind of end this game immediately here. Notice that he hasn't made any effort to contest Dome number 2. If Freyhill does not go and contest Dome number 3, I think it's very likely that Ian is just going to kind of try and run it down the middle. Cdubs taking a moment to consider exactly what he's going to do here. So Ekrit would normally be very good for lane clear. However, in this situation, the positioning of the minions does make it difficult to get your illusion, into a position where you'd be able to hit more than 1 minion. And so her ability to wave clear here a little bit more, a little bit more compromised than normally would be the case. Astrida is hiding in a cover hex, which means that there's no real target, and Yami isn't exactly the easiest character to blow up, especially with an Ekrit on turn 1. Yami will have 18 hit points, 1 armor. Now, Hokusai may choose to activate to melt that armor away using his worship ability here. We do see Hokusai activating, it looks like, here for Cdubs, so we'll see, is there a worship action to melt Yami's armor, do some damage to her, or does he go and attack the minion on the control point? Does he sense the trample coming? Let's see what he chooses to do. Looking through Chris's Cdubs list here, Hokusai is going to offer a variety of cards, actually. Psychic Shields, Exhaustion, Doom, and Unstoppable. Yami is going to offer Psychic Shields, Exhaustions, Quick Shots, Time Glitches. Shafathi is going to offer Discharge, Shattermind, Nightmare Incarnate, and a Soul Scream. We do see, actually, that Yami is going to take some damage there from the skirmish action. 1 point of damage bouncing off her armor as the worship was not used on her to begin with. I suspect, okay, +2, dead minion. I suspect the final action here will be a lead, which will negate that trample play. I think that, oh, wait. Okay, there we go. There's the lead action. Very good. And yeah, so with this lead action in play here, assuming that that's a 3, that's going to provide 4 units of control. So in this case, it would seem that using the presence for a, or excuse me, using the flux for a turn 1 presence, probably less than ideal here for Ian. So Ian's going to go ahead and move. Now, does Ian go and contest the dome? Is the key question here. Dome 3 is currently uninhabited. Dome 2 only has Yami. So we see that Freyhill is actually going to march up. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we go and play for the trample anyways. There are 3 heroes here in place. So with a lead from Freyhill, that would guarantee 3 points of damage on the tower, I believe, if I'm doing the math correctly here. Freyhill and Hokusai, if they were both 3s, would offset each other. We have a minion, we have Yami, we have Astrida, so that should be 3 points of time. Okay, all right, I guess I'm wrong then. We are going to go ahead and play the trample. There it is. So, moving that control hex 1 unit forward. So with a lead from Freyhill, this will damage the tower. 3 or 2 points. It depends on whether or not Ekrit goes to contest Dome 3. If Ekrit does go into Dome 3, that will give Chris the ability to summon both the Silent Ambassador and the Terror of the Endless Night. Terror of the Endless Night could spawn adjacent to Yami as well, doing things to her, but at the cost of an additional point of damage to his tower. So we'll have to see which of those options the players elect to go for. Eric right now is calling the move trample, the skirmish, and the lead. I would agree with that. Freyhill is not worshipped in this situation, so if she were to skirmish, she could probably move in a little bit closer, deal some damage to Ekrit. And Yami plays trample? That's not right. Okay, that must just be, oh. Wait a minute. Are we undoing the play here? We've moved the control zone back. Ah, Hokusai is going to play Doom. Okay. So Hokusai is going to play Doom on the Freyhill in response. So as the stack goes up, first the Doom card resolves here. Freyhill is going to flip a 1 mana cost there onto the Freyhill. Okay, so that is a good point. Yes, Freyhill wouldn't actually lead due to the fact that she has already done, due to the fact that Yami has led. Okay, so with that happening, the Doom was activated in response to the Skytear Flux, and that minion there is going to, frankly speaking, make this entire play fizzle. So now Ian has to kind of think about what's going to be done. Most likely we'll see an Astrida worship here, possibly. Ian's deck is not particularly geared for combat with this lineup. We have, let's see, some -1s, some +1s here. He did not bring Shalavi, so we're missing a lot of the +2s that she brings. Nelliclin brings 1s and 0s. So we have to see what happens here. Okay, so we do see the skirmish into the cover hex. This does make sense. And then potentially a worship action on himself. Or, okay, we see a +3 skirmish against Ekrit there. That will deal 2 damage to her after the armor. Going to go ahead and clean up some tokens. Brings Ekrit down to 14 hit points. Now, with this play here, interestingly enough, Ekrit could set up in Control Zone 3 in the dome on Chris's side for a potential wind barrier attack. that would require both the move and the skirmish to get into position. But are we undoing the flux? Is that what we've got going on here? Looks like it. I guess they're deciding, is the flux being undone as a result of the Doom play? That seems to be the discussion, I think. I was going to say, yeah, we can't undo the flux card there because the flux card came down and then the Doom was the response to that. But nevertheless, Freyhill is going to play Sacrifice. So Freyhill is worshipped at this point, so we are going to see the damaging effect of the HP. The final action was the worship, and so this Sacrifice is an end of turn play here. I presume that we're going to be targeting Ekrit with this ability because Hokusai has 17 hit points. There we go. It looks like we're going to focus on getting Ekrit off the field. Ekrit does drop to 10 HP. I did forget to mention that our objectives, since they're not displayed at the top, double kill 2 enemy heroes in the same activation, and also the Tamer, kill 2 enemy heroes using the Outsider. So we have Terror of the Endless Night and Silent Ambassador. The Silent Ambassador is surprisingly good at killing people with 3 attack ranged plus the Stone Storm ability. Does make it so that the Silent Ambassador is capable of dealing out damage. The Silent Ambassador must spawn around the perimeter of her dome, and the Terror of the Endless Night must spawn in a cover hex. So with that being said, Green Freyhill here from Ian could very easily be surrounded by both Outsiders if Cdubs manages to capture both Control Zone 2 and Control Zone 3. And given that the trample play was stopped, Hokusai being in lane 1 does slow down the control zone not at all, due to the fact that there's only 3 units of distance between the current position and his tower, but it does prevent the tower damage. All right, meanwhile, we're going to go ahead with a worship and attack. So in this case, instead, we're going to use the wind barrier to damage both Yami and the minion. That will reduce the control pressure, so this also makes equal amounts of sense here. Deleting the minion, and then I expect we will see Ekrit move herself into the dome and go for the double Outsider play. Okay, we're targeting Yami here with an attack as well, it looks like, before we move into the dome. Don't want to waste actions, because wasting actions is something that I would do. I do not recommend doing that at all. It makes winning the game significantly harder. And so, as a result of the attack, we will see red Yami, neither player is red. We will see green Yami take a small amount of damage here, unless we have a response. Potentially here, I don't think that's going to be the case, because Yami and Freyhill are both out of mana. Okay, so we do see, finally, the skirmish action there. Doesn't really matter who he targeted, because that +1 is not going to damage. Well, actually, he can't see Freyhill, so he has to have targeted Yami. But Yami with an armor, that's going to bounce right off of her. And so now, unless we see any end of the round results, nothing there. Hokusai, Yami both led with 3s as we expect, which means the control zone will advance 2 towards Chris. But again, because the trample play was stopped, no damage to the tower. And so in exchange for having the control zone slightly pressed up against his area, Chris gets to unleash both Outsiders against Ian. And this is going to potentially cause a lot of pain, depending on how this is played and who is targeted here. So first, of course, we do have to calculate in order. So because the Terror of the Endless Night is in the second dome, he spawns first. Must spawn in a cover hex, as we mentioned earlier. It's going to spawn next to a Strida, it looks like. And then the Silent Ambassador will spawn second. She needs to spawn around the perimeter of her dome. And then we will activate them in the same order that they spawn. So real quick, we can review the abilities just in case anyone's forgotten them. I've brought them on screen there for you, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we see as the round goes on. So first of all, Astrida is being targeted. Astrida is being swung behind, so that's going to be the Dreadful Majesty. Place target hero adjacent to the Terror of the Endless Night and apply Disarm. We also see a flip against her for an attack, so that's going to deal +1 damage minus the armor is 3 damage in total, bringing Astrida down to 8 hit points. And then it looks like we're going to use the Nightmarish Roar to push the hero and slow. As a result of this, Astrida will have to use at least her move and skirmish to get into a dome to cause any effect. She cannot reach the control zone without any charms or any fasts to help her cleanse the slow because of where it's been pushed to. So we'll see what Astrida chooses to do. All right, so now for the Silent Ambassador, the first ability that was used is Farsight, Predict 2. As you can see, Cdubs has pulled those cards. He's decided to discard the Unstoppable, place the other one back on the top of his deck, whatever that may be. Now we're going to target both of them with the Stone Storm ability. We can see that area is a 2x2 hex field there. This is also going to apply slow to everybody that's hit. We see the +3 on the flip. Eye of the Storm from Ekrit, her ultimate, was used. That'll deal 4 damage to both Freyhill and Yami. -1 armor apiece gives a total of 3 damage for each of them, bringing Freyhill down to 11, Yami down to 12. So not in critical danger yet, but starting to show signs of damage. The final action, I assume, will probably be an attack, as minion movement here doesn't really do too much for us. Or excuse me, not minion movement, hero movement, the wormhole. You are able to swap a target hero with any other hero within 4 hexes, but not likely to happen in this situation because they're all right where Chris wants them. And as you can see, Yami does take an additional 3 damage from the attack from the Silent Ambassador. And so we're going to go ahead, clean up house here, and we're going to start round number 2. Comments from the chat of Ian really needs a time glitch for Astrida for the next turn. I agree. The problem is that all of the time glitches are on Korjov and Shalavi. 2 time glitches on Korjov, 1 on Shalavi, which means that time glitch isn't coming out. Nelliclin, Yami, Astrida, and Freyhill do not provide any sort of movement that I can see here. We do have a sinkhole on Freyhill, obviously, but that is, well, no, the Flux has already been cast, so we can't do that in this round. 2 more sinkholes from Nelliclin. Yeah, all of the movement options are 3 mana at this point. And obviously sinkholes would require Freyhill to reposition and then kind of drag Astrida outward, which sounds terribly inefficient to begin with, but you know, sometimes you have to get creative whenever you land yourself in a sticky position. Let's go ahead and advance to round number 2. So, in round number 2, as we can see, Astrida has a whole host of status effects. She is marked, she is disarmed, she is slowed. Poor girl is having a bad day. Freyhill is worshipped and slowed. Yami is also slowed. So there was a lot of slowing applied that round from the outsiders. All 3 of those slows came from the outsiders. We're going to see Freyhill activate first, however. So we may see some potential, a double sacrifice, a sacrifice nurse play here, something of that nature, in order to try and deal significant damage to either Hokusai or Ekrit. We'll see what happens here. All right, we have a +3 on the flip, though, to Hokusai. So that's going to be the skirmish action, piercing damage, very effective here against Hokusai. And then we see the Bewitch come out. All right, very nice. So Bewitch is going to destroy 1 target adjacent enemy minion and spawn a minion for Ian. So although he did not get any tower damage last round because of the foiling of the trample, this is still going to allow him to set up for a potential tower push this round. Control Zone 1 does resolve before either of the outsider domes do. And so, as a result, all right, we see a -1 there on the flip. Still going to deal a little bit of damage to Hokusai there from the attack action. See what else happens here. A lead from the deck. All right, very nice. So it looks like Ian is committing to this Nexus Destruction victory. Finally finishing off the round with a worship. Makes sense. We will see, I assume, Freyhill will heal up a little bit here, perhaps. Maybe not. Freyhill is down to 11 HP, so she's not in critical HP, but she would appreciate a couple extra points. But Perhaps not. So the question then becomes now, what does Cdubs do? So Astrida effectively, if he activates Yami. Okay, very good. So what I would like to see here with Yami is if we use Yami to harass Astrida a little bit and then put Yami directly on the hex that is to the northeast of the Terror of the Endless Night, that should block... okay, so Yami's going to have to go down and defend the lane. That makes perfect sense as well. So I was thinking we could just kind of zone Astrida and make her semi-useless this round, but this is also an option here. So we're going to go ahead, guide the path here for Yami. Yami does get to move 5 spaces. She's going to go ahead and run through that minion, flipping against it to destroy it. Dead minion. Unfortunately, that quick shot would have been more useful to blow up a minion, but, ooh, there's another quick shot as well on the attack, so would have been useful to be able to spend mana to destroy them via quick shot, but nevertheless, this does relieve some of the pressure that Ian just put on this Nexus Tower. 2 minions down here, 2 heroes in range right now for Cdubs. Does mean that Nexus destruction in turn 2 is unlikely, but tower damage could still occur depending on the remainder of Ian's activations. Cdubs taking a second here to think about what his next move is. Considering his options, one of the things about Skytear is it is all about the maths. You have to be able to calculate how much damage you can do, how much damage your opponents can do, what your control values are. All right, meanwhile, there's Yami's ultimate. So Yami did mark Freyhill, using that action there to teleport over to the other side of her. You like to see Kneel Before Me, Yami's ultimate, to be actually played, but as a flip, also not too bad here, as it was against a hero. So Freyhill is down to 7 HP at this point, which means that it is actually potential that she might die. Given that she is in range of Hokusai, Freyhill will have her armor reduced to 0. And so we need to see then, does Ekrit move her illusion to potentially snag Freyhill and that minion in a Wind Blast on her move? Doing so does mean that Chris gives up the potential to run another double outsider minion phase in his favor, but would also significantly reduce the pressure and potentially set up Astrida for a kill on Hokusai's activation. Ian is going to go ahead and worship here. He is worshiping on Hokusai. This makes sense. Marking Yami is going to do the mark. She's going to swing around a little bit. I assume she's going to then go ahead and move into the dome. She's going to second attack the minion there. Oh, she's just going to use Quick Shot. Okay. Quick Shot is going to delete the minion there, so she doesn't even have to waste the attack action. So now she can skirmish into the dome and then lead from her hand, guaranteeing control of zone number 2. So skirmish against Hokusai doesn't really do anything. Hokusai still does have his 2 armor. And then moves herself right into the dome, and I fully expect to see the lead action as the last option. There we go. And a lead from the deck. The second action was an attack. No, the second action for Yami was a skirmish. That's how she managed to move into the dome. So now Chris is going to choose between Hokusai and Ekrit, whom he wishes to activate here. Again, it seems more cost efficient if we just use Ekrit to Wind Barrier. Wind Blast is a separate effect. To Wind Barrier down the Freyhill and the minion there. With Freyhill not having any armor, that does make it pretty easy to defeat her. Ekrit does have 2 attacks, so on a flip, if you get a decent flip, if you are holding any one of the Shattermind cards that Shafathi brings here, or the Migraine... Oh, no, Migraine's on Cythera, excuse me. That wouldn't work. But if you are holding some Shatterminds, or the Nightmare Incarnate card here, Ekrit should very easily be able to defeat Freyhill. Astrida can lead. Eric says, Astrida can lead, and what else would Astrida do? That is a great question. Astrida can't do a whole lot at this point because Yami kind of took over the one role that she would do. Unless, yeah, we've already talked about the fact that there's no movement cards in Ian's deck for Astrida at this point. So I'm not sure what Astrida can do, really. She can move. She can skirmish. That would get her within range of the control token, I guess, at least, and then lead. That's about all. That seems to be what she's going to have to do here. All right, so it looks like Hokusai is activating, and Hokusai is going to go ahead and use the worship action to burn off 2 HP from both him and Freyhill, so that brings Freyhill down to 5. Now the question is, does he move over and attack her? Or is he going to move Hokusai into the dome? Because Freyhill's already activated this turn, so she can't really run away from Eckert at this point. He might be waiting to see what Astrida's going to do before he makes the move here. Astrida cannot get to dome number 3, so you could send Hokusai in there, but it feels like you're just wasting an action. There's no need to lead because there's no way for Ian to contest to dome number 3. Attacking the minion, well, if you wanted to do that, you might as well have just used Eckert because she could attack both Freyhill and the minion. Is he going to potentially go into dome number 3 and contest Yami, though? This could be an option as well. If he goes in there, if he has a lead from hand, he may just go and try to tie Yami, forcing Astrida to go in and support her. That's the only thing that I can potentially think of based on how this turn is evolving. Chris taking a minute to think as well about what he wants to do here. Looks like we're going to go for the move. All right, this is going to tell us exactly how this turn is going to... Okay, so it looks like we are going to commit to killing the Freyhill. I like this. It will ultimately result then in -2 control value for Ian because I do not think he has enough power to kill her off. Well, actually, I take that back now. With that flip there, a skirmish action does kill Freyhill with a +1 or better flip. Looking at this deck, there are 2 3-4 zeros in this deck. So the odds are reasonably close that Eckert could kill Freyhill with the skirmish action. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Astrida going to play the presence to go ahead and predict 2. So in response to what can Astrida do, she can look at the deck. Astrida is going to lead also, and so I assume then that we're going to skirmish and move into range of the control token. That makes perfect sense. So Ian recognizing that Freyhill, not long for this world, does get Astrida into position so that she can at least contribute something. And so with this being said, that's going to be 2 plus whatever is under the deck. I have to assume it's a 2 or 3 since Ian did get to take a look at his cards before he placed them back on top and before he did that action. So net of, this is probably still going to be about 3 to 4 control points from Astrida. So Eckert really does need to kill off the Freyhill here. With this, you could move, use the attack action since the illusion token is sitting underneath Freyhill, and then skirmish back into the dome so that you each get control of one outsider. Let's see what he opts to do here. Oh, he's going to... Unless... Oh, nope, that's not what he's going to be doing. Let's think about what he might be doing by moving her there. Is he realigning the... Well, that doesn't make sense to realign the AoE effect, because then you wouldn't be able to... I'm going to sit here and wait to see what he does. Okay, we're going to move there. And we're going to move the illusion token, so we're going to shoot Freyhill. Okay, or excuse me, shoot Astrida. Interesting. This is going to allow him to push Astrida out, so this actually makes perfect sense to me. As well, now that I think about this, the wind barrier does allow you to push heroes hit, which means that Astrida is going to get blasted back into that bush, 4 units away from the control hex, and doing absolutely nothing. All right, so that makes sense now. Now that I see how this plays out, that makes perfect sense. And we still do... Oh, no, that does take all of your actions. So Freyhill will live at least until the Silent Ambassador comes out, which also does make more sense to me now that I think about it. Whenever you have a hero at 1 hit point and Tamer is on the field, why would you kill them off whenever you're guaranteed to win the Dome? And you can kill them off and get a bonus point on Tamer. So, of course, first we have to resolve Control Zone 1, and thanks to that pushing Astrida out of the way play there, that's going to result in a push. Yami will win control of Zone number 1. Terror of the Endless Night will spawn, and then Ekrit will get to, or excuse me, not Ekrit, Chris will get to spawn the Silent Ambassador. Now, although the Terror does get to spawn first, everybody that is on the field has to stay put. And so therefore, as a result, you can't summon the Terror in the cover hex where the Ambassador is currently positioned. But that being said, you can just spawn it right next to him, as you see right there. Silent Ambassador is going to go ahead and spawn again adjacent to her dome, wherever that may be. Either one of those doesn't really seem to make too much of a difference unless you're planning to wormhole Astrida, which could potentially be an option if you flip Astrida straight into the crowd there, and then you just get control of the Outsider again at the end of turn 3, and then kill off Astrida to make for the second kill for Tamer. That could be what Chris is going for in this case. As it stands right now, we can see him looking at the abilities of the card. I'm assuming he's probably verifying how Wormhole works. So Wormhole does require the first hero selected to be targeted by the Silent Ambassador. The second hero simply needs to be within 4, which means that although Astrida is sitting inside a cover hex, she is currently vulnerable to a Wormhole swap from the Silent Ambassador's position. And so that could potentially result in Astrida finding herself knee-deep in Chris's territory with a lot of unhappy heroes glaring at her. I first expect the first action to be an attack, guaranteeing to kill off the Freyhill here. Or you may chance it with a skirmish. What? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Before we do that, we do have to do the Terror of the Endless Night. I'm so excited about the Silent Ambassador, I forgot all about the Terror. So the Terror first is going to go ahead and pull Hokusai. Using the Dreadful Majesty, that'll apply the Disarm to Hokusai as well there. Allowing some repositioning. We do see the flip there. I'm going to assume that was the attack. So that will deal 2 damage to him, minus his 2 armor. And then I assume we're going to see the Dreadful Roar. The Nightmarish Roar, and that's going to push away all 3 heroes and apply slow, because as it stands, they're all in that AoE. If the partner in crime Ryan was here, this would be about the time where we make a joke about the Terror being the CDC and screaming at everyone for not obeying COVID-safe protocols. We have a number of heroes that were all clustered together, and so the CDC bear comes in, shouts at everyone to maintain social distancing, and puts a slow on them to ensure that they don't get back together too quickly. All right, so that being said, it's time now to set up and see what the Silent Ambassador does. Clinton also would like to propose that perhaps Cdubs is not going for the Tamer. He might be going for a double kill. Also, potentially an option as well. There are Rampant Hatreds. No, they're not. I lied. There are no Rampant Hatreds on Hokusai in this deck, so unfortunately we would not get to see that exciting play. But there are certainly 3 Shatter Mines, a Nightmare Incarnate, Soul Screams, and Wind Blasts brought in this deck from the yellow team, so potentially we could, if we get someone low enough, Ekrit or Yami decides then to go ahead and just blow somebody up and then blow somebody else up. If they get low enough, that could be the play. We do see that the Wormhole comes through, swapping Astrida. Okay, there's the Stone Storm, which means we are not going for double kill after all. We're going to put Astrida out of her misery with the +1 flip because she is still marked. That's going to... Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, nope, she is actually out of line of sight of Hokusai, which means she does not lose the armor. But it doesn't matter. Because that is a +1, and the Stone Storm does do 1 plus the flip, so unfortunately, that will still kill Freyhill. Just enough damage. That means that Nelliclin is going to tap in here. So Nelliclin, let's talk about Nelliclin. Nelliclin being infamous for being able to play cards of any color. Oops, that's his model. I don't want his model. I want his card. There we go. And also basically being able to get double mana by removing a pillar from the field. So I did mention at the start of the cast that there were some pillar changes. We didn't talk about them because we got into the action after some technical difficulties. Like marks, pillars no longer require line of sight. Oh, we're starting this off very quickly here. Ekrid is going to activate and start damaging Astrida right off the bat. And Swiftness is being put away. Oh, we forgot to discard our leads from the last round. Okay, that makes sense. So the Astrida damage was from the final option of the Silent Ambassador, the attack action, is what happened there. So with that being said, we're moving into this round here. So Astrida has 1 HP. Now, in this situation, you are set up to win by the Tamer if you get control of the Dome. But on the other hand, it is round number 3. So if Astrida has Song of the Siren, if she does not activate first, that would then indicate most likely she does not have it. And so then Chris might decide, you know, do I kill? Do I not kill? Because at this point, as long as Chris doesn't lose the tower, he can just simply go ahead and... Oh, question on the rules. One second, please. So the question, real quick on the rules clarification was, is Nelliclin allowed to activate this turn? The answer is yes. So whenever a hero dies on Ashen Pass, the reserve hero comes in the state that the defeated hero is in. So Freyhill was exhausted, which brings Nelliclin in as exhausted, but because it then became the end of the round, everybody unexhausts, which means Nelliclin is able to activate. There are rules that are being tested about potentially having a 1-turn delay if an exhausted hero is killed, similar to how we play on 2-lane and tri-lane. But as of right now, those rules have not been made official. That is looking to potentially be an issue for the next rules update that will take place. That is still under testing at this point. So I'm actually going to go ahead and double check on another rule while we're at this, just to make sure I don't accidentally misreport anything. Yes, okay. Something may happen this round. I wanted to double check on the rules to make sure that I didn't misspeak. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and see what this next round has in play for us. So we're in round 3, as we mentioned. If Song of the Siren is an option here, all right, so who is activating right now? Astrida is going to activate. This makes sense. I think you need to get as much value out of her as you can because she is dead on Chris's first activation. So get the actions out while you can. Worship, kill a minion, spawn a minion, and I assume that she will... Well, I guess she'll have to skirmish if she has her ultimate, because right now she can't see anybody. Yami is hanging out in a cover hex, and the other 2 are inside the dome, so... Okay, we've sacrificed Astrida. That makes sense too, actually, because now... I don't believe that Chris gets to draw the cards as a result, because he didn't kill her. Or... to look at it another way, Chris can't just leave Astrida alone and set up for an easy Tamer kill. That being said, Nelliclin is on the field, and there are a few things that Yami loves better than a defenseless mage. So although we do know that Kneel Before Me is in Chris's graveyard, it could be the case that we just go and run down Nelliclin anyways, and see Nelliclin die to the outsider. If Nelliclin takes any appreciable damage here, The Silent Ambassador, very easily able to kill Nelliclin, dealing 3 plus a flip, a Skirmish, 0 plus a flip, and the Stone Storm, 1 plus a flip, will almost guarantee that Nelliclin dies in that activation. So, looks like Ekrit is... Yami is activating here, I believe. Yes. Okay, so we've actually pinged the other Yami, so it's going to be some Yami on Yami action. That's a lot of Yami going on. And as a big Yami fan, I can appreciate 2 Yamis going at it. We'll see who's got the better scythe. That is your Yami, Chris. You don't want to damage that Yami. There we go. So the green Yami, which is actually a red Yami, oh god, this is going to be confusing, is going to get marked. She'll take 2 damage from the flip there, and then she'll take an additional 4 damage from the flip there. And now Yami's going to play the Unstoppable. So we're going to kill Yami here. Yami is about to kill Yami, which then raises the question of, is this murder? Is this suicide? That's a philosophical question we're not going to get into. +3 on the flip. That kills red Yami, which is actually green Yami. And so now Ian is down... Oh no, Ian is down to Nelliclin. So this is highly unfortunate to see this result here. What it looks like now is we're going to scrap going for double kill. We're going to scrap going for Tamer. It looks like Chris's victory condition, he's got bloodlust in his eyes. We're going for annihilation, which honestly to me is the best victory condition because it means nobody is left standing. Yami is going to have to sit put there, I think, in dome number 2. And win control of the Terror of the Endless Night. That does make it much easier for poor Nelliclin to survive, or to just get completely collapsed on, but it looks like we are going to play this safe. Chris does recognize that there are 4 minions, and if he just tries to desert everywhere, then Nelliclin comes in with a lead worship. That tower could explode before the domes resolve. And so he does do some minion control here. We do see the movement action. That is going to allow him to circle through the minion, kill off a minion. Do we perhaps have a quick shot in order to kill the second minion? Nope, we do not. Okay, that's okay. So that swings the control factor -2 away from Ian and makes it significantly harder for Nelliclin to be able to run down the field. Of course, Nelliclin does go ahead and play Presence, so this will help out a little bit. We're going to go ahead and see what we have on the flips. Let's see. Do we have any stone barricades? We do not. So unfortunately, Nelliclin could not pop a pillar and then use the worship action to reset his mana. So I'm not certain what we're going to predict here. Yeah, that's... that is a play. I'm not sure what his objective is going to be, though. Because, as someone says in the chat, that is a super dead Nell. I would agree. As soon as Nelliclin... So Nelliclin can do nothing and still get run down for the most part. Ekrit can move and skirmish into place and then just wind blast him, or wind barrier him. Also potentially wind blast him if he has the card. Hokusai can move, skirmish, and worship on him. And then potentially play a supernova. Nelliclin is a bad day to be Nelliclin, is all I have to say. I'm not sure what the play is here. But we'll see what happens. All right, we're going to lead. So it looks like Nelliclin is going to charge bravely forward. I think that Ian recognizes this is kind of a last gambit here. If somehow he is able to secure the tower, then he would be able to win if he's able to get that tower before Nelliclin dies, which with that position, I'm going to say is not going to happen. There are no cover hexes for you to hide. And so now you just kind of get ganged up on by Hokusai and Ekrit, both of whom will just almost outright kill you. It is a rough day here for poor Nelliclin. But I mean, that is the nature of the game sometimes, I think. Sometimes you just run your way into a situation and difficult to, come out of it. That the double outsider play round one definitely led to some advantages for Chris. And then Chris was able to make a very effective turn round two. He prevented Ian's assault on his Nexus, damaged one hero significantly, killed, and then set Frail up for death as well. All right, so here we go. So Chris is going to activate. Hokusai is coming onto the field here. We're going to skirmish. I expect skirmish attack worship, potentially. I don't believe we have any more unstoppable. Oh, no, we do have potentially another unstoppable as well. So we might just go ahead and smack Nelliclin until he dies. So 2 damage on the skirmish. 1 damage on the skirmish. Hokusai is disarmed. That's right. I forgot that. So Hokusai being disarmed actually does make it so this is going to require a little bit more on the pain train. So 2 damage from the worship action. That is piercing damage there. So we have a skirmish. We have a worship. There's the supernova. So supernova essentially is going to end this game because that's going to deal 4 damage to everybody in 2 hexes, which means all those minions are dead. And so poor Nelliclin is left by himself there. Not nearly enough pressure on the Nexus. And so at this point, I don't see any way that Chris can lose this game outside of just passing all of his actions. We're going to go ahead and attack here. +1 on the flip, so 2 damage to Nelliclin, bringing him down to 4. And that's the turn there, so Nelliclin's the only hero that Ian has, which means that play automatically passes over to Ekrit. And so now Ekrit needs to simply move into place and shoot Nelliclin to put him out of his misery. And so there we go. So very simple. We're going to skirmish, flip against Nelliclin. He only has 4 hit points, so it will be okay. +3, kneel before me comes up again. That does bring him down to 1, which does guarantee that this attack kills him no matter what. There is no mana left for Nelliclin to respond. +3, there's the Eye of the Storm. And so therefore all the heroes are dead. Of course, we do have to, technically speaking, for Annihilation, wait until the end of the round. In the event that minions would be able to push down the Nexus, but given that currently the control factor is 3-1 in Chris's favor, there is no chance for the tower to explode, which means that this is a victory for Chris via Annihilation. Congratulations, Chris. Let's go ahead and hop into the Discord, and let's talk to our players a little bit here. If I can do that correctly.
A little bit. Like I can control the lane a little bit better, but if I don't bring Ekrit, it's a lot harder for me to control the lane or control your heroes. I get more fast and stuff with Yami, with Ekrit.
Good game, guys. That was fun to watch.
Good game.
Yep, it was. It was a good game.
That turn 1 stifling of the trample.
Yeah, it was a good play for sure. Because we were just talking about, if I am able to do some tower damage there and really try to put pressure on that, I think it changes things. But yeah, it was a good play.
Yeah, because even with the trample token, you would have done some damage to the tower in turn 1, and then turn 2 you would have been set up already within control zone damage. So if you would have wanted again, now obviously, of course, Chris may have opted to play differently given that the control zone would have been in damage range at that point, but if all other things being equal, you could have potentially set up for some serious destruction there on turn 2, but the Doom kind of said no.
Oh yeah, it was that was and I think the card draw would have been really helpful too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. He played it well. It's good defense. Doom. That's to me. I've always wondered where's the best case for Doom, and I think that is one of the best places right after somebody plays the Flux on turn 1, because a bomb is about to hit. Yep. So
counter a street as ult too potential.
Yep.
On turn 3.
And I think on that last round, I debated like, do I just send Lachlan over into a dome and just try to win with outsiders? And I think that's probably would have been a better bet, but he still gets an outsider and goes and beats up on Lachlan, with no
It's
army.
hard though because I'd have to go to this side, which I probably wouldn't have been able to. Like silent. If you went to this one, it'd been the best way.
Yeah.
Because this can only spawn over here, and I have to like come over here. But
Yeah,
that would have been better, maybe.
Yep, I think so in hindsight. And it was like, well, if he has the Hokusai ult, then it's probably a good game. If he doesn't, then I can maybe win, hit another few more points of damage, get some tower damage, and just go one more round. But I mean that was my debate, and
All right, so
I mean, it was a lot of fun to watch because it shows the power of, I think, the Doom card. I mean, obviously a lot of people enjoyed it and thought it was an okay thing, but I think a lot of people underestimate the value it has of stopping those turn 1 2 mana plays or those turn 2 3 mana plays.
Yeah.
Or presence. Yeah.
So is the trample play? I know a lot of people. Ian, I want to throw this over to you. Is the trample thing something you've been working on? Because I know a lot of people have been talking about the play here, especially with the way the minions set up now on spawn. If you run for the trample play, it can be very effective. So is this something that you were just kind of trying out, or is this something you've been working on for a while?
No, it's been something we've been working on, and before the rule change of the minion placement, like if I can place my minions wherever I want, then I play Takali, and she protects. I can get her to protect all 3 of the minions, but now the way you have to have them set up, I went away from Takali, and whether that's right or wrong, but I just needed a way to kill 2 minions with one character, and Yami's the best at that.
I know a lot of. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it takes more work with the new minion placement, and it's probably best because we were finding that the other minion placement, it was incredibly easy to pull off, and even if your opponent 100% knows it's happening, there's not a whole lot they can do about it, and you're almost guaranteed to get 3 to 4 tower damage. If they don't know it's coming, it's a pretty easy win. So I think it's good that they changed the minion placement the way they did. But it's still something that we wanted to try and make work. And it started after, my last game. I think, Commander, you were playing with my game with Eric on the 2 lane where I tried to pull it off and just didn't read the card properly.
Yes. Yeah,
literally.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. The next week, Eric and I were playing an Ash and Pass game and just kind of joking about it, and I just threw that exact same lineup on the board and said I'm going to make it happen, and pulled it off. And then we were like, hey, maybe there's something to this, so we started messing with it a little bit. And then it was literally the next day that we saw the minions changed, and it changed everything. So
okay, have you considered using Akuti? Because I know a lot of people have found you worship attack and then you can lead with her or move her or whatever as the opening play, and you can accomplish that 2 minion for 1 deal. I know a lot of people are favoring Akuti for that reason as well.
Yeah, I mean, Akuti works the same. So I like Yami because she's able to, if I have an Astrida, if I'm placing it against another Astrida, she has the ability to play a quick shot to hit that extra minion, and that's come in handy before. And if she's able to get a fast card out, she can get to where I want her to and still have the ability to lead. So, but yeah, Akuti or Yami, I think are the 2 important ones for sure.
Why not both?
Typically, you only need to kill 3 minions, so
that is fair.
Yeah.
Although with the new mark, and I want to say I liked the use of the mark abilities from both of you to like teleport your Yamis around the board. That was really good. That was we talked a little bit about the mark rules being changed, and I think there was a lot of effective use of pivoting around cover hexes and in between the dome lines using the worship action from Yami. So I was very happy to see that the queen is able to take her throne.
Yeah, for sure. She's amazing.
Yeah, I think this was a really good buff to the Karumo clan, and it's especially on this Ashen Pass map, the
Hmm.
fact that Yami can really just get from one side of the board to the other with that worship action, it makes her so good.
Hmm. Feels like it's weighted really heavily on her and Hokusai for the
Hmm.
like worshiping being favorable for them
Hmm.
more than the others, but
Hmm.
they have tried Sakoshi
Yeah.
and it's okay. Just he's super squishy too.
Right.
Yeah,
I
he's still Sakoshi.
Yep. I mean, yeah, that is one of the things that I did notice with that buff is I thought we would probably see more Sakoshi, but as you mentioned, that's just kind of the problem is he's still super squishy.
Hmm.
All right,
Yeah,
well,
also tried. Go
go.
ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. I had nothing. I had nothing to comment on. I was going to actually ask if anyone had any closing remarks here.
Uh,
Nothing from me. It was a fun game to play.
Okay.
good
Chris, anything
game.
from you? All right, good. Yeah, I mean, again, it was a lot of fun to watch. So, at this time, then, I will make a small announcement. We have been talking about it a little bit in the Discord. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. EDT, which is 9 p.m. or 2100 hours Italy time, we are going to conclude the Florence live in-person qualifiers that we started on Sunday. Game Slayer and I will be commentating that again. Hopefully, we can avoid the tech issues that we had at the start of this game. Again, thank you, Ian, for bailing me out there as we tried to triage that at the beginning there. And there is a new card to be unveiled tomorrow. Woohoo!
Ooh.
Exciting.
And I will let you know that I am significantly happier about this card as there is no sight of Kenwei at all. We'll just say that. There is, we'll say that there are 2 heroes that are featured on this card. And if I say anything else, then Yakumo will probably get mad at me and not let me spoil any more cards. So tune in tomorrow, and Game Slayer and I will walk you through our thoughts on this brand new card that I think is pretty interesting.
Can you give us the color at least, or?
You know what? Since you asked nicely, I think I will. It is a yellow card.
Oh, okay.
This is another
Little
yellow
taste.
card. That's all I'm saying, because then I really will get yelled at, probably. So tune in tomorrow to see this new mystery yellow card, what it does, what its mana costs are, what its plus and minuses are. Well, obviously, it can only have one or the other. Whether it's a reaction or an action, and what it does, because I assure you, it's pretty exciting. At least I think it is.